a case of a woman who had been missing for 52 years in what became one of the United Kingdom's longest cold case mysteries, was finally solved. In March 1972, Sheila Fox vanished from her home in Coventry, England, just days after her 16th birthday. It was rumored that she had run off with an older man, the identity of whom was a mystery. All the police had to go on was a grainy black and white photo of her. The story of Sheila begins at a modest terraced house on Gulson Road, less than a mile from Coventry's iconic modernist cathedral. Sheila was born on February 26, 1956. Only then, she was christened Sheila in honor of her parents' joint Irish heritage. She later changed the spelling of her name to Sheila in a bid to blend in with her English classmates. Both her mother, Anne, and father, Chris, a bricklayer, hailed from County Wexford in Ireland and had moved to the Midlands at the end of World War II, when Chris found work there, rebuilding the city, which had been heavily bombed by the Luftwaffe. Sheila was the firstborn child of the couple that was born in England. Her elder brothers, John and Chris Jr., and sister Bridget, were all born in Ireland and moved to Coventry as young children. Sheila appears to have had a conventional childhood in the city. She was apparently intending to leave school at 16, something that was normal in the 1970s. This would have happened in July 1972, but instead, she would leave Coventry and her family abruptly that March. It was at this point that the story of Sheila's life as a missing person began. The precise circumstances of what prompted her to run away from home remain unclear. The accepted version of events among members of her wider family is that she had embarked upon a relationship with an older man, and her parents disapproved, or she feared that they would if they found out. According to her cousin Kevin Fox, the family story was that she had run off with the insurance man, the man from the Prue. The man from the Prue, short for Prudential, was a popular insurance advertising slogan at the time Sheila vanished. Sheila's frantic parents quickly reported her disappearance to the police. They provided the police with a solitary, grainy black and white photograph of her gazing wistfully into the distance on a recent seaside family holiday to help identify her. At the time, the West Midlands police were hopeful she had just moved regions, but after failing to find her, they launched numerous appeals, releasing the blurry black and white image of her and asking Brits to keep an eye out for the teen. Over the next 6 decades, the detectives had no idea what happened to her until they put out a fresh appeal with the same grainy photo in 2024. Within hours of the new appeal, members of the public got in touch and helped the police to track the missing woman down. Detective Sergeant Jenna Shaw said, "Every missing person has a story, and their families and friends deserve to know what happened to them and, hopefully, be reunited with them." Just 16 months after disappearing, Sheila gave birth to a son, Robert, in July 1973, who turned out to be her only son. Rob's birth certificate shows he was fathered by a man called John Foster, who is described as a barman from Enfield, North London. By that time, Sheila had changed her surname to Foster, suggesting that Sheila and John had gotten married. Teenage mum, Sheila, remained estranged from her parents and siblings at this point. She got back in touch with her family in the 1980s, but by then, the whole family had moved to Canada. While Sheila was out of contact, Chris and Anne Fox and Sheila's 3 older siblings had indeed emigrated. They left Coventry for Delta, British Columbia in 1976 to start a new life, perhaps partly to put the trauma of Sheila's disappearance behind them. The precise details of what happened when she tried to get back in touch are unclear, but it is believed that word reached the Fox family in Canada, and the whole notion that Sheila was missing was laid to rest at this point. But apparently, no one got around to informing West Midlands police that they were back in contact. Cousin Kevin recalls, "We all thought at the time that her parents would have informed the police that she had been found, but who knows? Maybe they did, and the message got lost in the records." It is also unclear what happened to her relationship with John Foster, but by 1983, Sheila had married divorced father of 2, Jack Thorpe, who is 7 years her senior. Sheila and Rob took his surname. Jack was a chauffeur that had grown up in northwest London, and it is thought that the couple were living in the area at this time, and subsequently. Certainly from 2003, they were in a flat just off London's North Circular Road in Cricklewood. Then, in 2015, Sheila and Jack Thorpe bought a flat in Watford, where they still live. 51-year-old Rob, who is also married, lives around the corner from his mother and her husband in the Hertfordshire, England commuter town. He works as a lorry driver. It was at their flat just outside Watford town centre that Sheila was tracked down in January 2025 and asked about her sudden international fame, courtesy of being found by West Midlands police. Sheila declined to comment in detail on her strange life story, saying only, "It all happened a long time ago. I have moved on. It is all in the past. It has been a misunderstanding, and I do not want to say any more." Sheila's mother Anne passed away in Delta, British Columbia in August 1996, and her father, Chris, passed away there in 2019 at the age of 98. In 2018, when her brother Christopher passed away at age 71, Sheila demonstrated that any suggestion that she was estranged was no longer the case. She posted a loving tribute, writing on Facebook, "Remembered with love, sleep well." A month later, on his birthday, she posted on legacy.com, "No card today, no cake. Heavy hearts and tears. Blessed to have had you as my brother, Sheila X." Her surviving siblings still live in British Columbia, Canada. Finding Sheila brought an end to a 52-year mystery and the oldest missing person cold case in the area. A perpetrator has been caught more than 30 years after he committed 2 violent crimes. One of his victims survived the attack, while the other one's life was brutally taken. On October 16, 1989, the Mesa Police Department of Arizona conducted a welfare check on 22-year-old Susan Amy Morse after she did not show up for work. The officers found her in her apartment, unresponsive on the bed, beaten and strangled with an electrical cord. She had been indecently assaulted. An autopsy revealed that her cause of demise was from asphyxiation. The police said that there were no signs of forced entry at the scene of the crime. Mesa Police Department Detective Teresa Van Galder said, "Susan was last seen by neighbors late the night before, so we do not know if someone came and knocked on her door and she opened it, or whether the person was known to her." Just over a year later, on November 23, 1990, another woman, this time a 23-year-old single mother, was also indecently assaulted in the same apartment complex. The 23-year-old woman in that case, however, survived after being assaulted. Her assailant also stole cash and a VCR before fleeing. In both cases, the police took DNA swabs and created a profile for the unknown male assailant. On November 2, 2002, the Mesa Police Department Crime Lab found that the DNA in both cases matched, linking the crime scenes. The DNA was then compared to profiles of convicted offenders using the FBI's National Database of Convicted Offenders, but yielded no results. And the trails in both cases went cold for years. In 2024, more than 2 decades later, the defendant himself have provided the break in the case after being arrested for a misdemeanor offense in Colorado Springs. That arrest was fortuitously timed with the opened investigation into the apartment complex attacks. Using advanced DNA testing funded by the Saki Project, Thomas David Cox was identified as a suspect. His DNA matched samples collected from both crime scenes, and his palm matched a print taken from the second victim's apartment. Sergeant Chuck Trapani said, "When there is new technology or new techniques on how to identify a suspect or examine evidence, we buy into that, and we re-examine the evidence as the years go on. And in this particular case, it worked out dramatically. Miss Morse, she does not have any family that we know of. Her parents have passed away, but we do have the second victim, which is the victim of an indecent assault. She is still alive, and from what the detective told me, she is so happy that we possibly caught the suspect." Cox was then extradited from Colorado to Arizona. He pleaded guilty on February 2, 2024, to 1 count of first-degree premeditated slaying and 1 count of aggravated assault. A judge sentenced Cox to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. County Attorney Rachel Mitchell said, "One of the most agonizing aspects of cold cases is the long uncertainty endured by victims and their families. This defendant committed these offenses in such a cruel manner and then went on to have a full life while the victim's young life was halted. It is only appropriate that this defendant spend the rest of his life in prison." Advancements in technology helped investigators solve a nearly 33-year-old cold case regarding two women hiking in the Henning State Conservation Area in Taney County, Missouri. On August 15, 1992, two young Texas women were on vacation in Branson when they went for a hike at Henning State Park Conservation Area in Taney County, Missouri. The two women, who remain unnamed, were approached by a man at the start of their hike. The man was looking for a lost wallet or something and was asking the woman if they had seen it. After this encounter, the women continued their walk and passed the man again. At that second interaction, the man started attacking them. He had a rock in his hand and he began to assault both with the rock. One victim was rendered incapacitated while the other woman pretended to be deceased. The man then took the unconscious woman to another location where he forcibly, indecently assaulted her. That was when the other woman took the chance to escape and get help. She ran to the parking lot and flagged down a passing motorist. The authorities were contacted and the search was on. A helicopter spotted the first victim, but the man was nowhere to be found. Both victims were taken to a Springfield hospital. One had sustained such severe injuries that she was in a coma for several months. The Missouri State Highway Patrol and Taney County Sheriff's Department launched a joint investigation. The victims even appeared on America's Most Wanted in hopes of identifying the assailant. However, no suspects were identified during the initial investigation, and the case went cold. It was not until 2008, 16 years after the incident occurred, that the one victim's assault kit was tested. Missouri State Highway Patrol Sergeant Mike McClure said, "It was not until 2008 that the original evidence taken from her room at the hospital was examined at the Missouri State Highway Patrol Crime Lab, where particulate evidence from him, DNA, created a suspect profile, but we did not have a match for it because the case was cold. The crime had gone unsolved for another 14 years, until 2022, when the Missouri State Highway Patrol continued their investigation with the Taney County Sheriff's Office. Along with advancing forensic technology, it led to the identification of Tony Lee Wagner as a suspect, at which time he was arrested by Fort Scott police." Sergeant McClure said, "It was a difficult thing to determine based on only the descriptive evidence that we had from years and years ago. The Fort Scott Police Department gathered DNA evidence from Wagner, and it was tested by Parabon Nanolabs. After a positive match, the Taney County Prosecuting Attorney's Office charged Wagner with 2 counts of first-degree assault, kidnapping, and forcible assault. Court documents indicated that the trial was moved on a change of venue from Taney to Ozark County, and after several delays, the trial began on March 24, 2025, in Ozark County Circuit Court. The trial lasted 4 days, resulting in a guilty verdict from the jury and a recommendation of a sentence of life without parole. A jury found 63-year-old Wagner guilty on 2 counts of first-degree assault, causing serious physical injury or special victim, and 1 count of forcible assault or attempted forcible assault with a weapon or physical injury. Formal sentencing is set for July 11, 2025. The investigators in Florida have used DNA evidence to link a man living in Orlando to at least 2 assault cold cases from more than 2 decades ago. In the early hours of the morning of February 1st, 2002, an Orange County woman was attacked as she was walking to a friend's nearby apartment. An unknown suspect approached her from the side of the building, tackled her to the ground, and told her to shut up, or he would stab her if she started to scream. The suspect, who had been holding a knife, then forced the victim behind a garbage dumpster, where he indecently assaulted her. He then forced her further into a wooded area and assaulted her again. After the victim began to cry, the investigators said that the suspect instructed her to put her pants over her head and wait for several minutes until he had left the area, or he would return and hurt her. After he fled, the woman returned to her apartment and called 911. She said she had not been able to see the suspect's face and likely would not be able to identify him. Months later, on July 10th, another woman reported being attacked in Orlando as she was returning home from a night out with friends around 3:30 a.m. The woman was approaching her front door when she noticed a man peeping around the corner at her. He then ran up to her, covered her face with a blue towel, and dragged her into some bushes near her apartment complex. He indecently assaulted her as he asked her personal questions about herself, including her name, whether she had children, and what she had been doing that night before coming home. The suspect forced her to keep the towel over her face throughout the attack, then asked her to lay face down and wait as he ran away. As soon as he had fled, the woman gathered up her clothes and ran for her nearby apartment. The detectives gave the offender the name of the woodline predator because of his habit of dragging his victims into nearby wooded areas just past the tree lines. Both cases remained unsolved for nearly 2 decades, until the investigators were able to use DNA taken from the crime scenes to develop a genetic profile that helped them identify a suspect in the case through the use of genetic genealogy. In 2020, the 2 cases resurfaced when investigative reporter Greg Fox started probing to learn more about any remaining evidence in the cases. Taking another look, the Orlando Police Department submitted the unknown DNA from the assault kits to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement Genetic Genealogy Investigations Program. Together with Parabon Nanolabs, the team was able to identify 4 persons of interest from the DNA and genetic genealogy research. Further investigation by the Orlando Police Department's SVU detective, Graham Cage, narrowed the suspect down to 2, and then finally 1. Dwight Arthur Harris. The investigators believe that Harris may also be tied to other cases in the area and are already testing DNA in a second Orlando Police Department case that could be connected. The Orange County Sheriff's Office has said that they also have reason to believe he could be linked to another 2011 case where Harris had been identified as a suspect, but the victim had later declined to pursue charges and declined an assault kit. The victim in that case, who had been a known lady of the night, told the police that a man produced a box cutter and assaulted her. She was able to provide the authorities with the tag number on his vehicle and a description of the vehicle that helped them identify Harris as a possible suspect in the case before she stopped cooperating. On July 2nd, 2021, 50-year-old Harris was arrested at his home in Orlando. He was not known to law enforcement, and at the time of his arrest, the investigators said that he was living a normal life. He had a family, and he had a regular job as a night delivery driver. Harris has reportedly been living in the Orlando area since the alleged crimes occurred in 2002. He was charged with 2 counts of battery with a fatal weapon or physical force. Detective Graham Cage said, "They thought this day would never come. They thought these were cold cases forever and that they would never be solved." Before Harris received his sentence, one of the victims testified over video about the suffering she has endured over the past 20 years. The victim said, "For 2 decades, I have been the one serving a sentence, not in a prison of bars, but a prison of memory, of shame, of nightmares, of endless echoes of your cruelty. You are a coward, not just because you hurt me, but because you have never had the strength to admit what you have done." Harris originally pleaded not guilty, but agreed to plead no contest to 1 charge in exchange for one of the cases and all the other charges being dropped by prosecutors. Harris, once facing a life sentence, pleaded no contest in Orange County Court on February 17, 2025, securing a 15-year prison sentence with credit for 3 years already served. Upon release, he will be on 5 years of supervised probation and must register as a predator. Harris's victim addressed the court, sharing the emotional toll the attack had taken on her life. She said, 20 years of fear, anger, and grief. Now, 15 years of a prison sentence is a fraction of the time I have spent trying to live in the wreckage you left behind. Even now, I know the difference between us. I did not choose what happened to me. You did. Now a mother of two, she said she refuses to let Harris's actions define her. Judge Diego M. Madrigal, III, acknowledged her bravery in speaking out. He said, I just want to tell you how lucky your family is to have somebody like you. You are incredibly strong, incredibly brave, to come in here, even if it is by video, and share what you have been through for the last 2 decades. 54-year-old Harris will remain in prison until at least 2036. A Saxman, Alaska man, was sentenced to 25 years in prison for a crime that has haunted the Ketchikan community for decades. In January 1993, a 14-year-old girl was walking across the school baseball diamond at Dudley Field near Ketchikan High School on a rainy night. A man in green fishing-style rain gear and a black scarf with a multicolored pattern of pink or purple wrapped around his face appeared from the darkness. The man grabbed her from behind and covered her mouth. He told the girl that he had a knife and would use it on her if she screamed or told anyone what happened. He indecently assaulted the girl behind the baseball dugout and then fled into the dark. The girl ran to a nearby house and reported the assault. She did not see the attacker's face because of the scarf that was masking it, but swabs were taken and an assault kit was sent to be tested. Despite the police's extensive investigation, the case went cold. Then, more than 10 years later, in 2004, the Alaska State Crime Laboratory developed a DNA profile from the male DNA collected during the victim's assault examination. It was then uploaded into a national database. No match was found, at least not immediately. But that changed in 2021, when testing of an unrelated assault kit led to a potential match, Michael Williams, in the national database. That kit was tested as part of a project to work through previously unsubmitted and untested assault kits in the state. The state lab confirmed the match to Williams by comparing the DNA sample from the victim's assault kit to a known sample taken from him. The 54-year-old Saxman resident was accused of 2 felony counts of indecent assault and indecent abuse of a minor. Trial proceedings for the 30-year-old case began on January 9, 2024, in Ketchikan. The prosecutor told the jury the rareness of the profile in this case was rarer than 1 in 330 billion. Cheryl Duda, a forensic DNA analyst, will testify that you can search the earth multiple times and not find a profile like it. The male DNA collected from the assault kit in this case belonged to Michael Williams. It is proven by science. He is not in the dark anymore. Defense attorney Leif Thompson cast doubt on the DNA evidence in his opening statements. He said, "You are going to hear evidence that there is no smoking gun in this case. There is no scarf with black and pink on it. I mean, there is no diary saying, 'I did it.' There is no other evidence to consider. It is a case entirely based on the science, and nobody believes in anything other than a DNA report. If anybody thinks Mr. Williams did it, it is for no other reason." He raised questions about degradation and how many hands handled the DNA over 30 years. Thompson claimed that the number that McCarthy quoted, 1 in 330 billion, is misleading because it does not account for subsets of the population that he said may be more likely matches. Additionally, Thompson leaned on the fact that there were very few descriptive details of the assailant at the time of the crime. Williams sat at the defense table, expressionless, during the opening statements and testimony. He was facing as many as 30 years in prison if convicted of first-degree indecent assault. The second charge carries a maximum penalty of 10 years in prison. Following a week-long trial, a Ketchikan jury found 54-year-old Williams guilty on January 16, 2024. Judge Daniel Doty handed down Williams' sentence on February 24, 2025. 55-year-old Michael Williams was ordered to serve 25 years behind bars. His attorney, Philip Paul Wagner, said that there will definitely be both a merit appeal and a sentence appeal, and we are confident we will prevail on both with reversals and remand.